Hello everyone, you're very welcome to my talk today. My name is Dr. Claire O'Neill. I'm a university lecturer and researcher at Cork University Business School, which is in University College Cork, or UCC, which is located in the south of the country. So today I'm going to give you a presentation on some of the research that I'm involved in. This is on both UCC Green Campus and also on a platforms research project, which is a European-wide food sustainability research project. So firstly, just looking at sustainability at UCC. UCC are a green campus and have a green flag since 2010. So we were the first university in the world to receive this green flag, which is from the Foundation for the Environmental Education. And this is similar to Eco Schools, which would run international, but it's at the university level, obviously. And we have a number of other achievements that we're very proud of, one of them being that we're 9th globally in the UI Green Metric World University Ranking of Sustainable Universities, and we've held that position for a number of years. And that has been, I suppose, representative of the work that has gone on the ground at UCC, and that's at, the Green Campus is student-led, it's research-informed, and it's practice-focused. So everything that we do in the university, we try to centre it around sustainability. And if you look at some of the highlights from the last sustainability report, which was published in 2019, you can see some of the key highlights here. One of the things that is quite important to UCC is integrating sustainability into teaching and learning, and sustainability is now part of the new curriculum framework. Another key element is that there's a new mowing regime and wildflower meadows, which is that kind of practice focus piece. And when we look at the research informed, one of the things that's key here is in 2019, there was 6 living laboratory projects funded and launched in UCC, and I was involved in one of those projects. So this project was based on plastic-free UCC, so looking at trying to get the university plastic-free by 2023. And this kind of came about from a campaign that students initiated. So there's your student-led approach, and the campaign was, and the petition was called Ditch the Disposables. So this research was carried out with a number of researchers across the university. And the idea was to try to understand how sustainable practices could be enabled and encouraged to facilitate the removal of certain single-use plastic from the university. And this was through societal and marketing levers. And the research gathered information via interviews with key stakeholders and also survey data from staff and students across the university. So just to give a very brief synopsis or insight into some of the research, here is from a survey statement. So I actively consider sustainability when I make choices regarding, and we give them several options. And here a sample is 660. And you can see here when we look at always, which is the green segment, dealing with my rubbish, there's quite a commitment there when we look at people taking account of sustainability when they're dealing with their rubbish. However, when we look at another statement, I know what the correct bin for each type of waste is, particularly for types of plastic. We see that about a quarter of the 660 are not 100% sure or confident when it comes to disposing plastic. So the vast majority, 50%, are fairly comfortable. They agree with the statement. But we've got, like I said, again, about a quarter which are not. So this is something that where, information, it's not the only answer, but it's awareness is a step in the right direction. So overall, when we look at all of the findings, there's an infographic here on the right-hand side that tries to depict all of the findings that that came from this research. But one of the key things, I guess, is that when we look at this idea of top-down, bottom up and middle out, and at the top, university leadership is really important, and there's been a commitment at UCC to sustainability from the university leadership and from management, which is really key, and it really came out in our research. But something else that was really important is that middle piece, and it's on environmental champions. So these are people who champion sustainability, and they can be from external stakeholders, say our food suppliers, or from internal stakeholders. For example, we have a very successful library campaign, which is called Love Our Library. And what we found in our research is that the champions, or people really, advocates, are really important in the success of those campaigns. So then when we look at the second piece, second piece of research that I want to talk to you about, it's on food, and this is the EU-wide project on food sustainability. And this research I'm joined with colleagues from Cork University Business School as well on this project. So the key question was, does where we buy food make us more environmentally conscious in how we use food? And here what we wanted to do was get the views of users of 4 different food supply channels. And these are the 4 here, which are further explained in this slide. So we looked at community supported agriculture. We looked at a food assembly platform, which is basically an online platform where you have a type of direct selling between local producers and sellers and consumers. And then we have the kind of more mainstream grocery retailers and the online version of the grocery retailers. And we wanted to see if the different ways through these 4 channels that people can buy their food, if they're more sustainable in the household. So essentially what we did was we went behind closed doors, we went into people's kitchens and interviewed them, in-depth interviews, and got them to take photographs of their food to see if we could understand how food behaviours and food consumption was happening in the household, and whether different ways or different channels of getting your food impacted on how you use that food. What we found is that it does impact, and particularly when it comes to those alternative channels. So when we look at the CSA and we look at the food assembly, which are really focused on local and seasonal food, what we find is these consumers really put very high meanings around and really value the food that they get from these channels. And therefore what happens is that they prioritize that food in the household. It becomes center in terms of meal planning, but also they don't waste that food. So they tend to buy less or pick up less from the farm, and they don't waste that food. Particularly when we look at the CSA, they go to extensive levels of preserving that food. So they make sure that they don't, so they pickle the food, they dry it, so it goes across seasons. But then there was also sustainable behaviours in the mainstream consumers, just not to the same extent. Particularly when we look at online grocery consumers, what we found was that because of the online structure, consumers tended to impulse purchase a lot less, which meant that they had less food that wasn't part of the meal plan for the week. And therefore they wasted less food. So the online structure, that idea of repeat purchasing and repeating the order that was there before, meant that people tended to buy very similar food, but they also wasted less food because of that. So this research is still ongoing, and will conclude this year. But in terms of conclusion, so far where we buy food appears to influence our food-related behaviours in the home, and the influence of alternative channels was generally linked to performing more sustainable behaviours in the home. So in terms of some recommendations, I mean, we found that further, people really preferred local food, and where seasonal food was used, it wasn't wasted. So we really feel that further promotion of local and seasonal food is important in this space. We also found that, or recommend that providing supporting information and insights where possible in terms of how people might use their leftovers is very important. And then also plastic packaging came up as a concern for consumers, and that, supermarkets and supply channels might further reduce the use of plastic, and maybe try to strengthen consumers' recycling knowledge and skills. Again, this links back to the research that we would have done on Green Campus. So thank you very much, and I'm very open and welcome to taking any questions that you have.